Revati Nakshatra, cognitive subconscious patterns, audio, visual, and kinesthetic. Some individuals process life primarily through auditory channels, attuned to tone, dialogue, and internal narration. Others absorb experience visually, seeing patterns, imagining outcomes, or learning through symbolic imagery. Still others are kinesthetic, processing through touch, emotional resonance, and embodied memory. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, communication, subtle perception, and presided over by Pushan, protector of travelers, guide of the soul, blends all three channels but leans most strongly toward auditory and kinesthetic processing. These natives are innately empathetic, rhythmic, and attuned to the unseen. They hear beneath the surface and feel their way into meaning. Their minds are often soft, nonlinear, and infused with poetic or devotional tones. While their visual memory may be strong, their deepest understanding is often triggered by sound, rhythm, or emotional atmosphere. Planetary placements in the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 10th houses reveal how these styles express themselves in the world. If Mercury is in the 1st, 3rd, or 10th house, the style is strongly auditory. These individuals process experience through language, tone, and internal dialogue. In Revati, Mercury adds musicality. They often hear truth before they see it, picking up on tone shifts, spiritual sounds, or verbal nuance. If Mercury is in the 10th, this becomes visible. They may be seen as eloquent communicators, songwriters, or counselors who guide others through voice and language. If Moon is in the 4th or 5th house, the processing style is kinesthetic, rooted in emotion, intuition, and felt memory. These individuals absorb experience through atmosphere and inner sensation. In Revati, the Moon brings mystical sensitivity. They may carry emotional truths in their body or process through dreams and subtle cues. If Moon is in the 10th, this emotional resonance moves outward. They are often seen as intuitive, healing professionals who can read a room without words. If Venus is in the 5th or 10th house, the style leans toward visual, especially in relation to beauty, story, or creative design. These individuals visualize harmony before they manifest it. In Revati, Venus adds imaginative grace. They may process complex emotion through artistic or symbolic imagery. If Venus is in the 10th, their visual sensitivity becomes their public gift, expressed through art, design, ritual, or aesthetic leadership. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the style is conceptual kinesthetic. These natives often process through philosophical feeling. They grasp meaning by sensing it in the body or aligning with truth through resonance rather than logic. In Revati, Jupiter gives faith-based cognition. They don't always understand how they know, but what they feel becomes their guide. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they are seen as spiritual leaders or mentors whose wisdom is transmitted through compassionate embodiment. If Ketu is in the 1st or 5th house, the processing becomes abstract and nonlinear, intuitive, symbolic, and often difficult to verbalize. These individuals bypass rational steps, absorbing meaning from dream, silence, or karmic memory. In Revati, Ketu amplifies mystical cognition. They download insight without seeking it. If Ketu is in the 10th, their public gifts may appear otherworldly. They work through intuition, channeling, or energetic intelligence rather than conventional analysis. Revati's cognitive field is gentle, fluid, and deeply responsive. These natives listen with the heart, feel with the soul, and often speak in tones that soothe or realign. Their evolution lies in trusting the depth of what they perceive, not forcing logic, but refining their intuition until it becomes wisdom. When integrated, they become luminous translators of the subtle, guides who hear what others miss, feel what others forget, and offer quiet clarity through presence, tone, and inner rhythm. Revati Nakshatra, motivation direction, towards versus away from. Some individuals are driven towards growth, connection, or inner fulfillment, guided by an inner vision of what they hope to experience or create. Others operate from an away from motivation, move to prevent loss, avoid suffering, or maintain peace. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, subtle awareness, adaptability, and guided by Pushan, nurturer, soul guide, protector of the lost, leans gently but consistently toward an away from motivation style. These natives are deeply sensitive and often act from an instinct to protect, soothe, or withdraw from disharmony. They seek to avoid disintegration, emotional, relational, or spiritual, and are drawn to paths of healing, closure, and refuge. However, when aligned with purpose or touched by inspiration, they can shift into a towards mode, especially in acts of service, devotion, or artistic contribution. Whether their drive comes from preservation or pursuit depends on planetary placements in the 1st, 6th, and 10th houses, zones that reveal how energy is initiated, expressed, and sustained. If Mercury is in the 1st or 3rd house, the motivation becomes gently towards, especially through curiosity, communication, or learning. These individuals are drawn to explore, express, and guide. In Revati, Mercury brings spiritual intention. They move toward clarity, compassion, or soul alignment through subtle speech or careful decisions. If Mercury is in the 10th, this becomes visible. They may be writers, speakers, or mediators who initiate action to bring resolution or inspire calm. If Moon is in the 4th or 6th house, the motivation leans strongly away from, especially emotionally. These individuals often act to prevent emotional disruption, protect the vulnerable, or avoid relational imbalance. In Revati, the Moon adds an empathic core. They feel what others feel and move to shield themselves and others from harm. If Moon is in the 10th, they may take on nurturing public roles, caring for others as a way of restoring emotional peace. If Saturn is in the 6th or 10th house, the motivation becomes away from through discipline and karmic responsibility. These natives often feel they must act, not out of desire, but out of moral duty or fear of consequences. In Revati, Saturn adds gravity. They are slow to move, but once they do, it's to uphold what's fragile or forgotten. If Saturn is in the 10th, they are seen as quiet protectors, those who carry burdens others cannot, motivated by compassion laced with accountability. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the direction shifts more towards, especially through meaning, expansion, or ethical inspiration. These individuals act to grow, teach, or uplift. In Revati, Jupiter becomes devotional. They pursue wisdom and contribute where it spiritually feels right. If Jupiter is in the 10th, their presence is motivational. They are known for bringing vision and belief to others, moving toward purpose with humility and grace. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the motivation may begin hyper towards, driven by longing, ambition, or transformation. These individuals chase meaning or visibility, sometimes without knowing why. In Revati, Rahu agitates their soft center. They may act boldly, then retreat. If Rahu is in the 10th, this push becomes public. They are seen as aspirational, but must learn to act from alignment rather than escape or illusion. Revati's motivation is shaped by its soul-level longing for peace, completion, and return. These natives often act to soothe rather than seize, to mend, protect, or close the gap between the world and the sacred. Their growth lies in shifting from avoidance into gentle pursuit, not running from the storm, but walking towards stillness with intention. When balanced, they become spiritual caretakers, guided not by fear, but by the quiet desire to restore what was lost, with love as their compass. Revati Nakshatra, attention direction, self or others. Some individuals are inwardly focused, tracking their emotions, inner voice, and subtle perceptions through a self-oriented attention style. Others are naturally attuned to those around them, picking up emotional cues, unspoken needs, and collective energy with an others-oriented attention style. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, awareness, adaptability, and guided by Pushan, the soul shepherd and nurturer, leans toward an others-oriented attention pattern, especially in its early and middle phases of evolution. These natives are intuitive empaths, drawn to care, soothe, or guide others through spaces of loss, transition, or inner vulnerability. Their awareness flows outward like a tide, constantly reading the room, anticipating needs, and emotionally attuning to what others may not say aloud. Yet, as their spiritual journey deepens, they often shift toward a more balanced or even self-focused mode, especially when they begin integrating boundaries and healing cycles of overextension. Planetary placements in the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses reveal where this attentional compass is most clearly directed. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, attention is strongly others-oriented, especially through emotional resonance. These individuals are deeply tuned to the moods and unspoken needs of those around them. In Revati, Moon enhances their psychic empathy. They often give before being asked, sensing who is in pain or in need of gentleness. If Moon is in the 10th, this empathy becomes visible. They're known for emotional intelligence in public roles, often becoming caregivers, counselors, or compassionate guides. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, attention may shift between self and others, but with an active social and mental engagement. These individuals are alert to feedback, conversation, and group energy. In Revati, Mercury brings subtle perception. They listen deeply, reflectively, and may prioritize understanding others before expressing themselves. If Mercury is in the 10th, this awareness turns professional. They may serve as mediators, translators of emotion, or communicators of peace. If Saturn is in the 4th or 10th house, attention leans more inward, especially when shaped by karmic weight or a need for containment. These individuals may appear emotionally withdrawn or quietly boundaried. In Revati, Saturn gives them a spiritual shell. They attend to others, but from behind a veil of stillness. If Saturn is in the 10th, this self-focused containment becomes visible. They are respected for their solitude, seriousness, and reliability, often seen as quiet spiritual anchors. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, attention begins within, but radiates outward through purpose. These individuals act from principle, but their compassion leads them toward others. In Revati, Jupiter adds sacred generosity. They focus inward for wisdom, then extend their light in service. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they are viewed as ethical mentors or spiritual teachers, rooted in self, but generous with guidance and emotional presence. If Rahu is in the 1st or 7th house, attention may become hyper-focused, either on self or others, depending on house placement and spiritual maturity. In the 1st, the focus is on identity, transformation, and self-discovery, sometimes obsessive. In Revati, this creates tension. They may feel conflicted between personal growth and the urge to dissolve into care for others. If Rahu is in the 7th, attention is strongly others-oriented, often to the point of losing themselves in relationships, validation, or service. Revati's attentional style is fluid, receptive, and attuned. These natives often sense others more deeply than they sense themselves, leading to a life of quiet caregiving, subtle emotional labor, or spiritual witnessing. Their growth lies in learning to turn some of that awareness inward, to recognize that the self, too, is sacred and worthy of the same tenderness they offer others. When balanced, they become compassionate guides, present to others without abandoning themselves, able to hold space without being consumed by it. Their attention becomes an offering, wide, wise, and rooted in devotion. Revati Nakshatra, understanding chunk size, big or little. Some individuals process information through big chunk understanding, absorbing overarching truths, symbolic meaning, or spiritual frameworks before the details. Others lean toward little chunk understanding, building comprehension step by step, preferring clarity, structure, and sequence. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, discernment, integration, and guided by Pushan, the soul's guide and restorer, leans toward a big chunk processing style, especially when engaging with emotional, spiritual, or abstract content. These natives often grasp the essence of things, sensing patterns, inner truth, or karmic connections, even when facts are incomplete. Their understanding is nonlinear and intuitive, often carried by feeling or vision rather than technical breakdown. Yet when needed, particularly in service, caregiving, or communication, they can shift into little chunk processing, translating broad insight into practical steps. Planetary placements in the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 10th houses influence how their perception flows, whether in expansive synthesis or precise detail. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the native leans more toward little chunk understanding. These individuals enjoy organizing thought, communicating in layers, and building clarity step by step. In Revati, Mercury here brings articulation. They may translate spiritual insight into accessible guidance. If Mercury is in the 10th, their precision becomes visible. They're seen as teachers, therapists, or communicators who patiently walk others through complexity. If Moon is in the 4th or 5th house, understanding becomes emotionally intuitive, blending both big and little chunk awareness. These individuals often feel their way into insight, absorbing experience through emotional resonance or repetition. In Revati, moon adds sensitivity. They may revisit themes or stories to build meaning. If moon is in the 10th, this becomes part of their leadership. They're known for their quiet, emotional wisdom and ability to hold large truths in a deeply human way. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the native processes primarily in big chunks. These individuals are spiritually conceptual. They seek moral or symbolic truth first, trusting the details will follow. In Revati, Jupiter deepens vision. They may instantly grasp the deeper story or purpose behind events. If Jupiter is in the 10th, their public role centers around transmitting big picture insight. They lead through philosophy, faith, and healing perspectives. If Venus is in the 5th or 10th house, the understanding is aesthetic and symbolic, leaning toward big chunk, but with visual or relational texture. These individuals see through beauty, harmony, and subtle feeling. In Revati, Venus processes emotion and meaning as a unified experience. They don't need every detail to know what feels right. If Venus is in the 10th, they are seen as graceful leaders, bringing cohesion, empathy, and intuitive balance into their work. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the chunk size may be inconsistent, alternating between hyper-detailed focus and abstract leaps. These individuals are driven to understand, but may struggle to ground their perception. In Revati, Rahu adds urgency. They may chase truth, insight, or meaning, often bypassing method. If Rahu is in the 10th, their style becomes public. They may seem visionary or erratic, needing grounding practices to stabilize their insight. Revati's default mode of understanding is soul synthetic. They feel the whole before they name the parts. Their strength lies in grasping interconnectedness, the karmic weave behind life, the emotion beneath words, the sacred pattern behind chaos. Their challenge is in translation, learning to unpack their wisdom so it can serve others clearly. When balanced, they become bridges between the mystical and the real, holding vast insight with tender precision and building meaning from both the story and the step. Revati Nakshatra, frame of reference, internal or external. Some individuals move through life with an internal frame of reference, guided by their own emotions, values, and intuitive knowing. Others are anchored by an external frame of reference, seeking cues, direction, or validation from authority, community, or social structures. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, perception, integration, and guided by Pushan, protector, soul guide, nurturer of lost paths, leans strongly toward an internal frame of reference. These natives are subtle, reflective, and spiritually self-navigating. They move through the world like dreamers with a compass in their heart, responding more to their inner resonance than to outer opinion. However, because they're deeply empathetic and often sensitive to disapproval or relational disharmony, they may temporarily lean toward external feedback, especially when feeling emotionally ungrounded or responsible for others' peace. Planetary placements in the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses influence how firmly they stay inward or how much they adapt to outer expectations. If Mercury is in the 1st or 3rd house, the frame of reference is internal, but mentally fluid. These individuals reflect constantly, processing stimuli through inner dialogue and subtle mental calibration. In Revati, Mercury sharpens spiritual perception. They may appear adaptable outwardly, but always return inward for final decisions. If Mercury is in the 10th, this internal discernment shapes their public role. They are seen as wise communicators, consultants, or soul guides who move from quiet conviction. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, the reference can tilt external, especially through emotional responsiveness. These natives feel others' energy strongly and may adjust their choices to maintain harmony or avoid conflict. In Revati, the Moon adds empathic sensitivity. They care deeply and may doubt themselves if others are unsettled. If Moon is in the 10th, this emotional mirroring becomes public. They are seen as nurturing or intuitive leaders, but may need time alone to return to inner alignment. If Saturn is in the 4th or 10th house, the frame becomes more internally anchored through karmic maturity. These individuals move deliberately, evaluating their path through experience, discipline, and quiet knowing. In Revati, Saturn adds containment. They may doubt themselves outwardly, but trust the gravity of their inner truth. If Saturn is in the 10th, they are respected for their quiet self-mastery. Those who lead from stillness, not from social approval. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the frame of reference is internally principled. These individuals are guided by belief, ethics, or spiritual faith, often feeling deeply aligned with a personal philosophy. In Revati, Jupiter illuminates the inner world. They consult their conscience more than public consensus. If Jupiter is in the 10th, their inner wisdom becomes externalized. They may be teachers, mentors, or advisors who lead with depth and soft moral clarity. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the reference begins external, often craving validation, recognition, or transformation. These natives may chase outer success to stabilize inner uncertainty. In Revati, Rahu disturbs the still waters. They may reach outward for identity, only to realize the answers were always within. If Rahu is in the 10th, this tension becomes public. They may rise quickly, but must return to soul truth to sustain their purpose. Revati's natural compass is inward-facing. They navigate through subtle knowing, feeling, and spiritual orientation. Their sensitivity to external energy can be profound, but it is not where they are meant to anchor. Their growth lies in honoring their inner voice, even when the outer world is unclear or conflicting. When aligned, Revati becomes the intuitive guide, softly attuned, silently strong, and devoted to walking the soul's true path, even if no one else can see it yet. Revati Nakshatra action preference, proactive or reactive. Some individuals initiate, stepping forward with clarity, purpose, and intent in a proactive style. Others wait, sense, and respond, moving with emotional timing, spiritual cues, or unfolding events in a reactive rhythm. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, discernment, adaptability, and guided by Pushan, protector, nurturer, soul guide, leans toward a reactive action preference. These natives are subtle movers, acting from intuition, emotional sensing, or divine timing rather than impulse. They often wait for alignment, for the right moment to act, not out of passivity, but because their soul listens deeply before stepping forward. However, when devotion, inspiration, or inner clarity is strong, Revati can shift into a soft, proactive mode, especially in service, creative expression, or spiritual leadership. Planetary placements in the 1st, 4th, 6th, and 10th houses reveal how they navigate action, whether moved by inner rhythm or called into initiative. If Mercury is in the 1st or 3rd house, action becomes proactive, but thoughtful and measured. These individuals act when clarity is present, through words, plans, or quiet decisions. In Revati, Mercury brings subtle initiative. They may not move loudly, but they move first through insight. If Mercury is in the 10th, their action becomes visible. They are seen as careful communicators or intuitive strategists who act when needed, with compassion and timing. If Moon is in the 4th or 6th house, the style is clearly reactive, especially through emotional timing. These natives respond to inner moods, relational tones, and subtle energy shifts. In Revati, the Moon adds empathy. They act when they feel someone needs support, or when a moment feels emotionally sacred. If Moon is in the 10th, they may be perceived as gentle responders, those who lead through presence, not pressure. If Saturn is in the 6th or 10th house, action is deliberate and reactive, based on duty, structure, and karmic timing. These individuals may hold back until responsibility calls. In Revati, Saturn adds maturity. They wait until action is necessary, often stepping in quietly to carry burdens or restore what's broken. If Saturn is in the 10th, their leadership is reserved but respected. They act when others falter, with deep patience and endurance. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, action shifts toward gentle proactivity, driven by purpose and belief. These individuals act when the heart aligns with the higher path. In Revati, Jupiter adds devotional movement. They initiate when they feel it will serve truth, growth, or healing. If Jupiter is in the 10th, this becomes visible. They are seen as spiritually intentional leaders who act not to control, but to inspire. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, action can become hyper-proactive, but scattered or emotionally driven. These individuals may leap before grounding, seeking meaning or success before the soul is ready. In Revati, Rahu disrupts the gentle rhythm. They may push forward, only to retreat and recalibrate. If Rahu is in the 10th, They are seen as restless or visionary figures. Those who rise fast, but must learn to act from clarity, not craving. Revati's action style is like a tide. It listens before it flows. These natives do not rush, they respond. Their timing is intuitive, their movement soulful. They may appear passive, but beneath that stillness is a deep sensitivity to right action. Their growth lies in trusting their rhythm, not being rushed by the world, nor immobilized by fear. When balanced, they become graceful responders, those who move when it matters, and whose action heals simply because it comes from such an aligned, heartfelt place. Revati Nakshatra, operational style, options versus procedures. Some individuals move through life with an options-based style, favoring fluidity, improvisation, and intuitive choice. Others operate best with a procedures-based approach, grounded in structure, repetition, and ritual. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, intelligence, adaptability, and guided by Pushan, guardian of the path, soul shepherd, leans toward an options-based operational style, especially early in life. These natives are imaginative, sensitive, and nonlinear. They need space to wander, to feel their way through choices, and to align with inner timing rather than outer systems. However, when they take on service, spiritual, or healing responsibilities, procedures can emerge, not as rigid control, but as sacred rhythm. Rituals, routines, or caregiving structures help them hold space for others without losing their softness. Planetary placements in the 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses reveal how they organize life, whether they flow with intuition or find refuge in rhythm. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the style becomes options-based, with a mental agility that thrives on adaptation. These individuals learn through variety, speak with nuance, and dislike being boxed in. In Revati, Mercury adds intuitive logic. They may follow nonlinear paths that make sense only in retrospect. If Mercury is in the 10th, this becomes visible. They're seen as improvisational communicators, creative strategists, or soulful planners who build systems that breathe. If Moon is in the 4th or 6th house, the style leans toward emotional options, but with occasional procedural grounding. These individuals shift with mood. They work when the energy feels right, often changing methods based on emotional clarity. In Revati, Moon brings sensitivity. They may resist schedules unless emotionally resonant. If Moon is in the 10th, they may adopt soft procedures, rituals, or caregiving routines that serve others while regulating their own emotional flow. If Saturn is in the 6th or 10th house, the style becomes more procedures-based, especially when linked to karmic duty or long-term healing. These individuals find comfort in structure, not for control, but for containment. In Revati, Saturn helps shape their compassion into discipline. They may use repetitive practices to hold space for others without depleting themselves. If Saturn is in the 10th, they are seen as patient, behind-the-scenes professionals who serve quietly, consistently, and with soul. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the style becomes options-based, but spiritually ordered. These individuals act on intuition and belief. They follow what feels morally or symbolically correct. In Revati, Jupiter brings grace to decision-making. They trust timing, signs, and insight more than plans. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they're seen as wise yet flexible guides, those who may shift direction but never lose the thread of meaning. If Rahu is in the 3rd or 10th house, the operational style can become chaotically options-based, especially early on. These natives resist structure, often pushing against rules in favor of freedom or unconventional paths. In Revati, Rahu brings spiritual rebellion. They may seek paths that dissolve boundaries. If Rahu is in the 10th, this shows publicly. They're seen as unconventional creatives or mystics, but must eventually integrate ritual or rhythm to ground their evolution. Revati's operational style is fluid, intuitive, and softly sacred. These natives don't thrive in harsh systems, but they excel in paths that honor rhythm, silence, and subtle shifts. Their challenge is learning when flow becomes fragmentation and when structure becomes sanctuary. When balanced, they operate like healers of time, moving gently between choice and rhythm, improvisation and care, building soulful containers where others can rest, grow, and return to wholeness. Revati Nakshatra, views, general or specific. Some individuals process life through a general view, seeing symbols, broad meaning, and spiritual or emotional patterns. Others prefer a specific view, noticing fine details, distinctions, and immediate facts. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, subtle intellect, flexible focus, and guided by Pushan, protector of travelers, nurturer of the soul's path, leans strongly toward a general view. These natives are naturally abstract, poetic, and emotionally panoramic. They intuit themes, karmic stories, and collective emotions more than isolated facts. They often perceive life as a spiritual journey, full of signals, rhythms, and unseen connections. However, when called into roles of service, healing, or communication, they can briefly focus through a specific lens, especially when precision is needed to support or guide others. Planetary placements in the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 10th houses help shape whether they linger in symbolic spaciousness or anchor into practical clarity. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the view becomes more specific, especially through language, planning, or communication. These individuals notice patterns in thought and may focus on naming, clarifying, or refining ideas. In Revati, Mercury offers precision through compassion. They can translate spiritual insight into words. If Mercury is in the 10th, this clarity becomes public. They're seen as sensitive communicators who offer guidance through careful speech or system building. If Moon is in the 4th or 5th house, the view remains general, but emotionally textured. These natives absorb collective mood and subtle tones. They may not articulate details, but they feel what's happening beneath the surface. In Revati, the moon amplifies soul-level perception. They perceive emotional atmospheres like music. If Moon is in the 10th, this intuition becomes social. They're known for soft leadership and the ability to understand groups, clients, or communities without needing specifics. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the view is deeply general, with a philosophical or devotional tone. These individuals grasp spiritual or ethical truths without needing to deconstruct them. In Revati, Jupiter brings expansive faith. They sense how everything connects, and that understanding often guides their decisions more than data. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they're seen as visionary mentors, those who speak in wide arcs of meaning and guide others through trust in the unseen. If Saturn is in the 6th or 10th house, the view shifts towards specific, especially when tied to responsibility, correction, or karmic order. These individuals may focus on detail not out of preference, but because structure is needed. In Revati, Saturn grounds the dream. They bring form to fluidity. If Saturn is in the 10th, they're seen as measured professionals, those who manage spiritual or emotional complexity through patient, specific work. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the view can swing wildly, hyper-focusing on details or obsessing over meaning. These natives may shift from excessive generalization to compulsive specificity. In Revati, Rahu distorts clarity. They seek understanding, but must learn to trust intuition without overanalyzing. If Rahu is in the 10th, they may be perceived as mysterious or complex leaders, needing grounding to balance insight with clarity. Revati's natural view is symbolic, spiritual, and emotionally vast. They are not built to live in facts alone. They perceive life through heart frequencies, memory, music, and myth. Their gift lies in holding the whole, feeling the invisible weave between people, paths, and time. When balanced, they can focus when needed, but always return to their truth. That reality is more than what is seen. It is felt, remembered, and deeply interconnected. Revati Nakshatra, work preferences, together, proximity, or solo. Some individuals thrive working together, sharing energy, ideas, and emotional space. Others prefer proximity, operating independently but staying near others for quiet connection. And some work best solo, needing peace, control, and solitude to do their deepest work. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, adaptability, internal dialogue, and guided by Pushan, the protector of wanderers and the guide of souls, leans naturally toward a solo work preference. These natives carry subtle emotional and spiritual processes that require space. Their thoughts are often nonlinear, their sensitivities high, and their energy easily scattered in chaotic or overstimulating environments. They do best in quiet, spiritually charged, or emotionally safe spaces where they can hear themselves think and feel. However, their compassionate nature and service orientation can also support proximity, especially in healing, counseling, or caregiving roles where quiet presence near others becomes meaningful. Planetary placements in the 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses clarify how they engage with work and energy exchange. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the preference may shift toward proximity, particularly in roles involving communication, soft leadership, or behind-the-scenes planning. These individuals may enjoy working in quiet dialogue or thoughtful exchange, but still require autonomy. In Revati, Mercury brings empathic clarity. They collaborate when it enhances understanding, but rarely seek constant interaction. If Mercury is in the 10th, they're seen as gentle facilitators, those who coordinate with grace, but guard their inner space. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, the preference leans toward proximity, emotionally driven. These natives are attuned to relational energy. They don't need constant connection, but benefit from supportive presence. In Revati, Moon adds a deep emotional sensitivity. They prefer harmonious atmospheres and may quietly absorb the emotional field of those nearby. If Moon is in the 10th, this becomes visible. They're perceived as emotionally intuitive workers who support others quietly, often in healing or relational professions. If Saturn is in the 6th or 10th house, the preference is clearly solo, driven by karmic focus, emotional containment, and long-term responsibility. These individuals need space to think, structure, and stabilize. In Revati, Saturn brings spiritual solitude. They serve others, but require time alone to renew. If Saturn is in the 10th, they're seen as steady, understated professionals, those who carry weight in silence, often working alone, but for the benefit of many. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the preference is solo with sacred purpose. These individuals are internally motivated, spiritually reflective, and operate best when they feel aligned with something greater. In Revati, Jupiter adds devotional rhythm. They may work alone not to isolate, but to protect the sanctity of their calling. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they are seen as soulful guides, those who offer wisdom quietly and lead by living their truth. If Rahu is in the 3rd or 10th house, the preference may start as together, driven by ambition, stimulation, or desire for recognition. These individuals may initially seek teamwork or external visibility, but eventually discover their true power in private work. In Revati, Rahu disrupts stillness. They may need solitude but resist it. If Rahu is in the 10th, they're seen as magnetic but complex professionals, needing time alone to anchor their gifts without burning out. Revati's ideal workspace is quiet, fluid, and emotionally protected. They don't thrive in loud, high-pressure environments, and rarely in groups that demand constant interaction. Their strength lies in their capacity to tune in, spiritually, emotionally, and energetically, and to offer healing, clarity, or vision from that place. When balanced, they become graceful soloists or soft space companions, holding depth, dissolving chaos, and helping others feel seen, even in silence. Revati Nakshatra, experience, association versus dissociation. Some individuals move through life with association, immersed in emotions, relationships, environments, and meaning. Others lean toward dissociation, observing from a distance, detaching to protect sensitivity, or processing through subtle layers rather than direct confrontation. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, internal perception, navigation, and guided by Pushan, nurturer, guide of lost souls, protector of travelers, leans naturally toward a dissociated experience style. These natives often feel everything, but process it quietly, inwardly, or symbolically. They may seem soft, dreamy, or withdrawn because they absorb so much. They must filter experience through emotional or spiritual layers before expressing it. However, when deeply moved by compassion, creative longing, or spiritual purpose, they can shift into association, fully present, emotionally immersed, and bonded with what or whom they serve. Planetary placements in the 1st, 4th, 5th, and 10th houses shape how directly or distantly they engage with experience. If Moon is in the 4th or 5th house, the native leans toward association, but in an emotionally poetic way. These individuals feel life deeply through intuition, memory, and emotional landscapes. In Revati, Moon dissolves boundaries. They may become merged with what they love, sometimes to the point of losing themselves. If Moon is in the 10th, this emotional association becomes part of their public identity. They are seen as nurturing, soulful, and emotionally invested in their role or work. If Mercury is in the first or third house, the experience becomes dissociated, but mentally curious. These individuals may observe themselves as they move through life, analyzing emotions rather than fully immersing in them. In Revati, Mercury makes them gentle thinkers. They narrate experience internally, often processing through journaling, music, or quiet reflection. If Mercury is in the 10th, they are seen as articulate but reserved, those who feel deeply but express sparingly. If Saturn is in the 4th or 10th house, the dissociation becomes protective and karmic. These natives may have learned to withdraw emotionally to maintain safety, dignity, or spiritual control. In Revati, Saturn adds gravity. They often carry the suffering of others without revealing their own. If Saturn is in the 10th, they are respected for their calm exterior and emotional restraint, but may struggle to stay connected to their own softness in public roles. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the style of experience blends dissociation and association. They may observe from a distance, but through a lens of compassion and spiritual truth. In Revati, Jupiter allows them to remain detached without closing the heart. They feel life as a story, something sacred to understand, rather than be overwhelmed by. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they may be seen as wise, warm, and spiritually engaged, even if quietly so. If Ketu is in the 1st or 5th house, experience becomes nonlinear and karmically dissociated. These individuals often feel untethered from ego, time, or identity. In Revati, Ketu amplifies their dreamlike presence. They live between realms and may process more through past life echoes or symbols than direct events. If Ketu is in the 10th, they are seen as mystical, elusive, or spiritually distant, serving in silence, often without recognition. Revati's relationship to experience is fluid, compassionate, and deeply internal. They don't always live on the surface. They dissolve into feeling, step back to reflect, or hold space rather than react. Their growth lies in knowing when to emerge, when to feel fully, love openly, and be seen in their softness. When balanced, Revati becomes the soul companion, one who sees without judgment, feels without flooding, and brings others back to wholeness by simply witnessing with care from both within and beyond. Revati Nakshatra, approach, matching versus mismatching. Some individuals operate with a matching mindset, focusing on what aligns, connects, and feels right. Others use a mismatching approach, noticing what's off, what needs improvement, or where something diverges from expectation. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, pattern recognition, adaptive cognition, and guided by Pushan, the gentle protector, guide of souls on lost or delicate journeys, leans toward a matching approach. These natives are naturally drawn to harmony, resonance, and spiritual coherence. They seek emotional alignment and symbolic meaning more than correction or critique. Their style is inclusive, soothing, and often idealistic, looking for what can be healed or unified rather than what must be fixed. However, when overwhelmed or when their compassion is stretched thin, they can momentarily shift into a mismatching mindset, especially in relational or spiritual contexts where things feel energetically off. Planetary placements in the 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses reveal whether their focus stays gentle and aligning or sharpens into quiet discernment. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the approach becomes more mismatching, particularly through language and logic. These individuals may notice subtle contradictions in speech, tone, or emotional rhythm. In Revati, Mercury gives quiet critique. They don't always voice it, but they know when something is out of tune. If Mercury is in the 10th, this becomes professional. They're seen as sensitive editors, careful advisors, or intuitive communicators who refine energy without harshness. If Moon is in the 4th or 6th house, the native approaches life through emotional matching. These individuals sense harmony in the atmosphere and may unconsciously adapt to keep the peace. In Revati, the Moon deepens empathic fusion. They attune to relational flow, preferring to merge rather than confront. If Moon is in the 10th, they become public empaths, leading gently, feeling their way into shared space, and seeking resonance over disruption. If Saturn is in the 6th or 10th house, the style may shift toward mismatching, but with spiritual patience. These individuals quietly assess what's broken, ineffective, or misaligned. In Revati, Saturn grounds their compassion. They may not confront directly, but they notice and slowly work to correct, cleanse, or protect. If Saturn is in the 10th, this manifests as understated leadership. They guide by fixing what others overlook, often through structure, ritual, or presence. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the view stays firmly matching, especially through spiritual, ethical, or moral alignment. These natives see potential, purpose, and the divine even in imperfect circumstances. In Revati, Jupiter gives unshakable faith. They focus on what's right or becoming right rather than what's wrong. If Jupiter is in the 10th, this optimism becomes visible. They are seen as uplifting guides, leading from symbolic coherence rather than critique. If Rahu is in the 3rd or 10th house, the approach can flip into mismatching, sometimes obsessively. These individuals may hyper-focus on what's broken, hidden, or offbeat, particularly when chasing perfection or transformation. In Revati, Rahu distorts sensitivity. They may react to the subtle dissonance they feel, but struggle to communicate it. If Rahu is in the 10th, they are seen as unconventional reformers, those who want to fix or transcend systems, though their methods may seem confusing to others. Revati's approach is inclusive, healing, and attuned to emotional spiritual resonance. They move gently through life, sensing into what feels aligned, rather than dissecting what isn't. Their power lies not in critique, but in subtle guidance, bringing people, ideas, and energy back into harmony. When balanced, they become quiet harmonizers. Those who match with essence, soothe with presence, and restore integrity, not by force, but by offering the frequency of wholeness. Revati Nakshatra, time experience, in time versus through time. Some individuals live in time, immersed in the present moment, responding to emotion, intuition, and unfolding events as they arise. Others operate through time, tracking long arcs of growth, karmic cycles, and future meaning with conscious awareness of past, present, and future. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, fluid perception, temporal awareness, and guided by Pushan, the soul's shepherd and guardian of passage, experiences time primarily in time, but in a deeply empathic and spiritual way. These natives move through life by sensing the emotional current of the now. Their internal clock is more lunar than linear, governed by rhythm, feeling, and intuitive alignment rather than schedule or external pace. Yet when their purpose deepens or their spiritual clarity awakens, they can shift into a gentle through-time experience, understanding how each moment fits within the soul's larger path. Planetary placements in the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses reveal how they engage with time, whether they float within it or step back to trace its full meaning. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, time is felt in time through mood, connection, and inner tides. These individuals live in emotional rhythms. They act when something feels ready, not when a clock says so. In Revati, the moon softens all timing. They may appear dreamy or unstructured, but often arrive at the right moment by heart rather than plan. If Moon is in the 10th, their sensitivity enters public life. They lead with intuition, trusting emotional timing even in professional roles. If Mercury is in the 1st or 3rd house, the native blends both modes, thinking through time, but responding in time with insight. These individuals reflect on cycles but act with present clarity. In Revati, Mercury adds subtle tracking. They might not follow strict plans, but they're always tuning into what's evolving. If Mercury is in the 10th, they are seen as responsive professionals, those who adjust wisely and move when the energy calls. If Saturn is in the 6th or 10th house, time becomes through time, structured and karmically paced. These individuals move slowly but deliberately, often acting in ways that ripple far beyond the moment. In Revati, Saturn brings sacred timing. They may delay action until everything aligns spiritually. If Saturn is in the 10th, this creates the public image of a wise elder or silent pillar, those who walk the long path with quiet integrity. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, time is perceived through time in a spiritual or philosophical way. These individuals act with faith in the larger arc, trusting divine timing even when outcomes are uncertain. In Revati, Jupiter adds softness to patience. They believe that all things unfold as they must. If Jupiter is in the 10th, They're seen as spiritual timekeepers, those who act from vision, holding the long view even in worldly roles. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, time can become distorted, swinging between impulsive urgency, in time, and obsessive long-range striving, through time. These individuals often struggle to trust timing, either rushing to transform or waiting too long. In Revati, Rahu pulls on the dreamer. They may chase a vision too soon or delay out of spiritual confusion. If Rahu is in the 10th, they may rise quickly, but must align their timing with inner truth to avoid burnout. Revati's relationship with time is fluid, sacred, and emotionally attuned. These natives are not here to race. Time for them is a current, a whisper, a soul movement. They grow by learning to balance presence with purpose, being fully here, yet aware of what's unfolding across lifetimes. When aligned, they become intuitive time travelers, those who guide others, not by rushing or pausing, but by listening deeply to when the soul is truly ready to move. Revati Nakshatra, primary interest motivation, people, activities, places, or things. Some individuals are drawn primarily to people, their emotions, stories, and healing. Others are driven by activities, what they do, create, or serve. Some feel most alive in certain places, environments that offer safety, beauty, or spiritual stillness. Others are motivated by things, tools, systems, or material expressions of inner values. Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury, mental adaptation, soul navigation, and guided by Pushan, nurturer, guide of the lost, protector of journeys, is most often motivated by places and people, especially those that evoke sanctuary, belonging, or soul connection. These natives are drawn to spaces that feel safe, sacred, or emotionally resonant. They are also moved by those who are lost, tender, or in need of quiet guidance. Though they can enjoy activities or appreciate beautiful things, their core drive is to offer safe passage, to be present where healing is needed, and to dwell in spaces that feel emotionally and spiritually coherent. Planetary placements in the 1st, 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses reveal how this quiet longing turns into action. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, people become the dominant motivator, especially in emotional or relational settings. These individuals are drawn to protect, comfort, or attune to others. In Revati, Moon adds soul-deep empathy. They care for people not through grand gestures, but through soft presence and deep listening. If Moon is in the 10th, they are seen publicly as nurturers or empaths, those who hold space for others' transformation. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the interest tilts toward activities, especially those involving storytelling, caregiving, or spiritual communication. These natives are motivated to offer guidance, reflection, or healing words. In Revati, Mercury becomes a translator of inner wisdom. They're moved to speak only when it brings peace or clarity. If Mercury is in the 10th, they may serve through spiritual writing, counseling, or behind-the-scenes communication roles. If Saturn is in the 6th or 10th house, places become sacred, especially structured, quiet, or service-oriented environments. These individuals are drawn to hospitals, ashrams, retreat centers, or workplaces that carry weight and meaning. In Revati, Saturn turns physical space into emotional refuge. They feel motivated to serve through containment, structure, and long-term dedication. If Saturn is in the 10th, they are seen as quiet anchors, those who create or protect spaces where healing can happen. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the motivation becomes more philosophical, driven by places of pilgrimage, spiritual practice, or soulful wisdom. These individuals seek environments and paths that connect them to something larger. In Revati, Jupiter adds devotional longing. They're drawn to where truth can be lived. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they may become guides or mentors who help others find their spiritual place in the world. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, things and status may briefly dominate, especially early in life. These natives might chase roles, success, or symbols of transformation to find themselves. In Revati, Rahu creates a longing to matter. They may reach for titles, tools, or positions that echo inner power, only to realize their deepest motivation is peace. If Rahu is in the 10th, they are seen as driven but must shift towards service-based or spiritually aligned roles to feel whole. Revati's true motivation is to heal through presence and place. These natives don't move toward the spotlight. They move toward the quiet, the sacred, and the soul in need. They are drawn to spaces that hold emotional meaning and to people whose wounds call for compassion. When aligned, they become gentle anchors, those who help others arrive safely, not just in the world, but in themselves. Their life becomes a shelter, a soft place for transformation, silence, and grace.